Hey everyone, it's Carrie. Good morning, Smarties. If you cannot hear me, please let me know. I did change my mic settings. I was on a previous call and I had to move some things around. So if I am not picking up on my mic, I need to know right away. Cool? Promise? Pinky swear? Pinky swear? I don't need to look like a fool. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Carrie Ann Cormier. I'm the host here at The Carrie Show. And for everyone who told me it is not The Carrie Show, it sure is. I am a financial services executive by trade, currently taking a much needed sabbatical from corporate life and focusing all the time and energy and excitement on passion projects that I've had in my heart for so long. One of them being BankSmart Studio. So although my background is in retail and digital strategy, my heart is in marketing and social media. So I'm a total nerd about those things, and you will see a lot of those themes woven in through everything that we do. Cool. Yeah, I have a topic that I'm very passionate about today. I think I might say that about every topic. You can see I get excited easy. And earlier this week on the 17th, the last show, I said I had 3 topics we're going to talk about. I only got to 2. So I'm glad I saved this one because it does deserve its own episode. We are going to be talking about the evolution of retail leadership within banking and the move towards a chief experience officer and what that looks like. So I'm really excited about that. But first, I want to tell a little story. So I'm going to bring up a picture. And I think just about every show, I have some sort of like super, super adorable picture of my daughter. And that is just because she's amazing. My boys are amazing too. But they're just like in a different stage. So I don't have as many stories to share about them. And the interesting thing about being a parent, I'm an older parent. I had my kids later, and you start to see things such a different way, like through the eyes of your little one. So she consistently inspires me with different stories and ideas because I'm seeing things that I normally wouldn't see otherwise. I told you about the Cliff House and the On Top of the World story a couple weeks ago, and this one hit me last night. So this is a picture of her. It's actually a little bit older picture because I don't have another one of her hanging out my car window. She loves doing this. So anytime we go to the gas station, she likes to put down the back window while I'm pumping gas, and she likes to play ice cream server. So this is her in the summer pretending to serve me ice cream, and we always kind of do the same thing. She'll greet me and say, "Hi, what can I get for you today?" And I'll say, "I would like 2 scoops of ice cream, please." And then she'll say, "What kind would you like?" And I'll say, "Oh, whatever you recommend. What do you have on the menu?" And then she'll tell me a little bit about the menu. And I'll say, "Okay, I'll take 1 scoop of chocolate and then whatever one you recommend," right? So she goes in, pretends to scoop. Then she tells me the bill's $100. She's a hustler. And then I pretend to pay her or give her my card, and then she gives me the scoop, and it's so fun. And I get really annoyed when it's raining and she wants to do it, or when I forget to roll the window down and she still wants to do it? Absolutely. But I try to do it every time. So this is just kind of to set the scene. So last night, I'm driving her home from dance. It's about 6 o'clock, and I always let her get a donut on the ride home. And we used to do this when she had Saturday morning classes. Now she's a little older and has Wednesday night classes. And so the donut doesn't hit the same like it would in a morning class, but it's still a tradition. So she likes to do it. So last night, we're going through the drive up, and she always asks if she can do the ordering. So sometimes I'll order ahead on my Dunkin mobile app because you get rewards. We all like rewards. Free things are good. We're all about rewards here at the studio. And other times I will just have her order it at the window, and she'll just say, "I'd like a chocolate frosted, please." Um, and so last night happened to be one of the ones where I had pre-ordered it, so she knows to say, "Picking up a mobile order for Carrie Ann." And you can't just say Carrie, because normally I would. Um, but then they get really literal, and they're like, "Well, we don't have a Carrie." Okay, yes, Carrie Ann, close enough, right? How many Carries do you have at your drive-through today, at 6:30 at night? Or they'll say, "What, Karen? We don't have a Karen here." Or Carolyn? No, no, Carrie Ann. Okay, so we've gotten down the workflow where she knows when we pull up. I have her window roll down. She knows when they say something, what to say. She knows to say thank you. When we pull up to the window part, she will grab the donut. If I got like a latte or something, she knows to do both hands, hand it to me. And she knows to say thank you to the person at the window. I've had a hard time with this because she started wanting to do this probably about a year ago. And for someone who didn't have a lot of autonomy, right, growing up, didn't always feel like I had a lot of autonomy as an adult, is afraid of messing up, is afraid of imperfection. This scares me. And so I remember the first couple times we did it, what were my fears, right? My fears were she wasn't going to say the right thing. There was going to be a back and forth. I was going to have to jump in. She was gonna grab the donut or the drink and she was gonna drop it. Or she was gonna take them my debit card and forgot to take it back. Or she was gonna drop my debit card out the window, right? So many things go through your head. And it's so much easier as an adult who knows how to manage these common things like going to a drive-through, ordering. As adults, we've done it thousands of times now. Um, that it's hard to like stop and offer up that kind of vulnerability and patience to a child or anyone else, right? When you're like, this would just be faster and easier if I did it myself. Um, yeah, right. But how does she learn? How does she take chances? How does she fail and try new things if I don't let her order at the drive-through? And, I'm gonna admit, like, I never liked ordering, and I sometimes I still don't, which is probably why I use the app. Um, and I'm trying to think of where that comes from, right? Did it come from, like, not having similar opportunities to practice? Um, because, the first time you order at a drive-through, sometimes it's when you get your license, and you're driving around by yourself, and you're like, "Man, I'm gonna swing through McDonald's and get myself some nugs." But I have to talk to someone on the speaker? What if they don't hear me? What if I'm waiting there and they didn't hear my car or feel my car pull up? What if I say something and it's muffled and it's not clear enough? Do I pull up? What if they got my order wrong? What if they charge me the wrong thing or give me the wrong order? Like there's so many things that go through your mind and it's like very anxious. And maybe this is just the anxiety girly in me. Um and maybe this just comes natural to others, but it's such an interesting concept because I think about it that I've not practiced those things at her age, right? I start practicing them as an adult. And of course, I may not be good at them because it's the first time I've done them, right? And so I think about her as a 6-year old and putting aside my fears and anxiety because what we're really talking about is low stakes, right? We're talking about a $1.97 donut. Okay. And a child ordering on a drive-through window. And so if she makes a mistake, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm just going to have to roll down the window or pull up and say, "Hey, oh, I'm so sorry. We just wanted a chocolate frosted." Or, "Yep, I know you couldn't hear us," like just to kind of redirect. Or if she drops it, "Okay, we'll take another one, please." Yep, happy to pay for it, whatever. Or you know what? We'll just pull up and grab it off the ground. It's in a bag, right? The stakes are very low. These are not like high powered negotiations here. $1.97 donut, right? So it's taken me a lot of time to get to the point where I've let her do it. And it's a definitely a conscious effort every time because I'm like fighting this part of me that feels like we're negotiating big contracts, right? Or everything rests on this line. And I've seen how much she's grown through the process, and it's, like, so incredibly cool because she does it with ease now. Like, before I'd have to prep her and say, "Okay, remember, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you're gonna say." Now she, like, will tell me, "Okay, I'm gonna say this," or, "Did you already put in the mobile order?" So she knows whether she says the mobile order or she does the regular order. Like, she kind of knows the options, and I just love this because I think about 2 things. One, what if I don't give her this autonomy? If I don't give her the space to learn and grow and make mistakes and try different things, right? Um, what is that doing for her? What is that teaching her about the next hardest thing that comes along? If the hardest thing for her right now is learning how to order at a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through and she's mastering that, like life is good. It's so incredibly good. And then which can she tackle the next thing, right? Can we go to Dunkin', can we go to McDonald's and order a Happy Meal? And she can talk about the things that she wants in it, that she wants nuggets, that she wants a chocolate milk, that she wants the apple slices. Like now we're offering additional options, right? That one still feels a little scary. A, a box of Happy Meal is a little bit more to manage coming out of the window than just a one bag of donut, right? So I think about the progress she's made and the progress, like what's the next step? But then it also makes me think about the workplace, right? So many times it's easier just to do it ourselves. We know how to run that report. We know how to um come up with that customer information and dump it into a spreadsheet and do all this. We know how to research in our optical files for that statement. We know how to do a check order real quick. Um And when we do all those things, right? But we have people that are willing to learn and try, and we say, "Oh no, it's just too much. Let me just do it real quick," right? How is that helping them? How is that taking them along and growing them and developing them? And for some of us, it comes so naturally. For some of us, it's a very focused effort to make sure that we're doing it. I think of, these are just really, again, low stakes things like a check order, printing a debit card. What happens if you don't print it right? Just print it again, right? Like we're not talking $1 million cash movement here. But now think about it in around the leadership table, right? So many of us as leaders, we hold the cards, right, for our team. And sometimes that means taking everything and aggregating it and presenting it to our fellow senior leaders. And many of you, like me, have done that hundreds of times. You could do it off the cuff, you can do it with your eyes closed, you can, like, it just happens, right? You can talk about everything that you do, and you can field questions, and it's so easy, right? um I've always been a believer, because people have done this for me, is to bring a subject matter expert or someone who's leading this, and have them come and present. So sometimes they're not as eloquent as you would be. They're not as fast thinking as you would be. You know why? Because they haven't practiced. They haven't gone through the drive up that many times. They haven't learned to enunciate their drive up order, right? It comes with time and experience and reps. So the more times you can get your team reps on things, the better they're going to be, and the better of a reflection of your leadership style. I remember, like, I had a team member who managed the retail division, and they did all of the work, right? They knew the ins and outs of the member experience, what the pulse on the street of what members were talking about, what they were looking for at branches, what the questions were, what the complaints were, what the pros and the cons, like all of that. Um, did I know this? Generally, yeah, right? I knew the market, I knew the industry. I could just come up with things off the top of my head and talk about it like I knew exactly what was happening because that's years and years and years of experience, right? This person may pause a little bit more, may not know when to interject, but you ask them, "Hey, why don't you come, let's just use an example, ALCO, right? Or ALM, asset liability, and come and talk about deposit trends. What are the customers looking for? What questions do they have? What rates are you seeing, right?" And so I remember the other senior leaders being like, "Ugh, we don't want them there. Like, this is a you thing." I'm like, how do you build the next generation of leaders? And how do you get to where I am, right? Because I don't want to be here forever without lifting others up, right? So anytime this person would come to a meeting, they would start to present or whatever. And sometimes if they felt like, not that they were fumbling, but if things felt like they were getting off track, I'd say, you know what? Oh, um, Mary, you told me the other day, remember what we talked about X, Y, and Z? She was just saying, and then I would like restate it. And everyone would be like, oh yeah. And then that would like get them back on track and they'd be able to interject. Um, and so again, to me, the stakes feel very low, right? You're helping someone get these reps in. It's a comfortable environment. You hope it is, right? But it's not always. I found that sometimes around that leadership table, it's really cutthroat and people look down on others that don't have those years of experience. And it's really disappointing because you hope that they would be open to hearing this. And, it's funny because when I say something, it was like, yeah, okay, Carrie said it. When the other person says the exact same thing in fact, a better way, people don't believe them. And it blows my mind. Why? Because I have a title? Because I say it with more certainty? With an MBA behind it just blows my mind. So, um, to summarize this story about how cute my daughter is, think about that next time you're working with your team and what you can do to let them try something new. Even if it's a little more work for you, even if it makes you a little nervous, even if you're afraid that they're gonna mess up the drive-through order, you're doing the right thing. You're helping them get their reps in, and you're creating that next level of leader. So that's your challenge for this week, and I know you can do it. I thought this was really cute, and I think about it a lot when we're going through the Dunkin drive-through because it gets my anxiety high. But what's funny? Having a team member present has never gotten my anxiety high because I always believe in them. And I had to remind myself that about my daughter. I always believe in her. Fun, huh? She always has something interesting to share. What are we going to do? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Cool. Cool. Okay. So kind of like moving into that, an extension of that. What does it look like when you have a retail leader and what's the next step for that, right? So for so long, like whatever you want to call it, head of retail, senior vice president of retail, director of retail, whatever that ultimate retail leadership role was, when you get to that, that was like the zenith. You're at the top, you own the world, and you've made it, right? Where do you go from there? It's hard because for so often, a retail leader was like a product channel. Okay? You own one little slice of the pie. Um, it's never been that way in my mind. To me, retail has always felt so expansive, so all-encompassing. And it's hard to see where retail stops and other things blend in because everything you do on the retail side, you touch customer and member experience. And I think that's what gets me into trouble because I can't turn off my blinders. If you know, you know. If you're feeling this, drop it in the chat too, because for all my retail peeps, you can't turn it off, right? This is like everything that we do. Like when there's fingerprints on the windows walking into the branch, I'm grabbing the Windex and the paper towels because that is like experience. And that tells a story about your brand, how reliable you are. Like, I can't. I am such a fingerprint person. But I've seen this shift recently to the evolving role of chief experience officer. And I would love to do a whiteboard session with all of you because whiteboards are my absolute jam. Like, high five if you're a whiteboard person. But we don't have a whiteboard here in the studio. If you would like to sponsor one, please let me know. I was going to bring my kids' little like Crayola easel up, but I don't feel like you would be able to see the full picture and it would be more clunky. But we are going to get ourselves a whiteboard and we are going to do a whiteboard sesh one day. But I did like mind map it out right before the show. And this does not count as show prep. I did not do show prep, but I like mind mapped it out because there's so many things I want to touch on here and the trend. Like, so I'm seeing now that there's a lot of places hiring for a chief experience officer, a chief member experience officer, if you're on the credit union side, right? And I'm wondering, right, is this the right move or is it just a trend? Are you guys seeing that a lot too? I don't want to like force my ideas on you, but also I'm going to force my ideas on you. I'm seeing a lot of my retail friends being promoted into those roles or banks and credit unions hiring for those roles now. And I remember probably, gosh, 10 years ago, um, the sales manager was all the trend. So everyone was looking for a sales manager because a sales manager was going to change the world. I remember when we went through our sales manager era, and that's probably a whole nother show all in itself, but I'll give you the highlight reel here because it relates. Um, we had some movement within the organization. The retail person was moving over to a different role. And what are we going to fill it with? We're going to fill it with a senior vice president, comma, sales manager. And who reports to that sales manager? Any guesses? When you think of sales, what do you think of? I think of an enterprise-wide initiative, right? If you're not saying you're the commercial sales manager or the retail sales manager or the lending sales manager, the mortgage sales manager, you're the sales manager. And to me, that indicates like enterprise-wide sales initiative. Everyone's going to roll up to a balanced scorecard. We're going to have a dashboard, like all of this. No. Who rolls up to the sales manager? The retail team. So you know what that tells the organization? Retail's going to sell, okay? But the rest of you, you just like keep on doing your own thing. You're fine. You fine. Retail's got to learn the conversation model and explore needs and ask questions and come up with a solution and close the deal. They have to do all that. They have to make their coaching documents and they have to plan out their business development calls. But commercial cash management, you don't need to do any of that. You good. You good. Now imagine you're at an organization like this and you have retail managers that have done every iteration of sales manager. And they're like, man, you are not going to teach me how to do a business development call. You are not going to teach me how to go to my networking group and work the room because let me tell you, I'm going to lap circles around you. But alas, the magical sales manager is here to save the day. And they're going to come in and they're going to go on calls with you. And they're going to watch you and they're going to provide feedback on something you've been doing for 30 years. But they're not going to do that to the commercial business development. No, no, because they don't need it. And there's so many stories I could tell with this, but keeping it to the point, um, how does something be successful if it's siloed like that, right? What message does that send to the organization? What message does that send to other business lines? Um, when I see something like that focused on retail, it says you're held to a different standard. You're you need remedial math. You do not belong in the Redbirds reading group. You are in the Robins. Sorry. Anyone else here a Robin reading group? I was a Cardinal, obviously. Like right up there, like Robins, Bluebirds, Cardinals. Um but it creates a divide within the organization because now you don't have shared goals. You aren't focused on the same thing. You're not talking the same language, and it creates this rift, right? So I wonder when I start seeing this new chief experience officer trend, what does that really mean? Anyone here? So shout out in the chat where you're tuning in from. And maybe you're in banking, maybe you're not in banking. But what does like experience officer mean to you? What when you hear chief experience officer, what do you think of? I'll tell you what comes to mind for me. Um, anything that the customer touches or can see, right? For me, everything relates to customer experience. The uniforms that you wear, the way your branches and facilities are laid out, how the grounds outside look, the mulch. Does it have cigarette butts in it or is it nice and clean and spruced up? The way you answer the phone, what you say, your tone. Um it's so interesting, like I've been dabbling at Starbucks recently, and because I found out they have egg bites, and I was digging the Dunkin' egg bites until they changed the recipe over the summer and they became gross. And so now that I found out Starbucks has egg bites, I will stop there for egg bites once in a while. But it's so interesting. I've noticed the way that they show up is different than the way people show up at Dunkin's. And I believe that is, and there's probably lots of research out there and stories and articles and all that. I have not gotten into that, but the way that they show up as a brand is so much different than Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is like fast casual, in out. Yes, right. Did I get your order? Blah, blah, blah. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Starbucks at the core probably has that same sense of urgency, right? They don't want the long lines. They want to get you through. They want the order to be correct. But there's an uplifting tone and greeting and vibe that they bring it with. And I just think that's so cool. Like the fact that they write little messages on the cup, the fact that they like use like one of them I've noticed that they use certain like languages, like not vernacular, but like things that they say. The way that they phrase things is so different and it's got like a positive upbeat vibe to it. And I just think that's so cool. And when you think of like customer or member experience, the way that people greet the phone, the way that they talk to you through the drive-through. I thought about that the other day. When they told me to like, I hope you have a fabulous day today. Something like that, right? And I think about how like I can hear in my head driving away from a bank and the opening and closing of the deal drawer. And they're like, and over the microphone, they're like, bye, have a great day. And you're like, yep, it's like transactional. It's like in and out. Maybe if you're lucky enough to like be one of the regulars, you get a friendlier greeting, but it's like, bye, have a great day. It's like so robotic and routine that there's no thought or flavor or passion to it. And I just think that is so interesting. I think I've told you guys I go to a wash and fold. Shout out to Lemonster Wash and Fold. I probably need to go there right after this and drop off some laundry, but they're so kind, and they do my laundry every week, and I go to pick it up, and there's 2 owners, and then they have, like, a small crew that works for them, and I don't always see the owners because 'cause they're, like, on different schedules than me, but one of the times the guy is, like, bringing the laundry out to my car, which first of all, he does not need to do, right? Like, I can absolutely do that myself, but he's loading the stuff into the back of my car, and he's like, "Thank you so much for your business." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, thank you." He's like, "No, we really appreciate it." And I'm like, and he says that every single time I pick up from him. When was the last time you went into your bank instead of, "Bye, have a great day," it was, "Hey, thank you so much for your business. We really appreciate you. We know you have a lot of options and you chose us. Thank you." Like, there's such a difference there. And that's getting off on a tangent, but it all rolls into this topic of like a chief experience officer. And what do they touch? What do they own? So I did a little research, and I have a story to go with it about a friend of mine who actually recently interviewed for one of these roles. And we're going to get into that. But when I think of it, I think of um, all the customer touch points. So branch, contact center, whether that's inbound or outbound, digital, right? How you show up online, how you show up in mobile channels, marketing. What is the brand messaging? Does that align with our experience? Facilities, again, what do the grounds look like? What do the branches look like? Operational touch points, like the letter that you just sent to a member. For some reason, you decided to do it on paper because you decided to debit their account and not tell them. Do you think you should have called or let a branch person call? Yeah, you probably should have, but instead of just backing out their check and sending a form letter that makes absolutely no sense, maybe you could have called. Or because you don't talk to members or customers, but that's a whole nother culture topic, um, you could have shot it to an account owner, like a retail person, whoever the officer is, and have them call, right? Like these are all the moments that touch customer experience. Lending. Think of all the lending touch points and following that life cycle. Is there a focus on customer experience there, member experience? There should be. If you are really solid in deposit channels, but you suck in the lending channels, that has two different experiences, and that show that how do I say it? That reflects on your brand, right? It's mixed messages. Like I always say this about retail. Um I've been in circles with banks, right? That are like, "Oh man, whew, like digitally, oh my gosh, so innovative, so forward thinking. Wow, look at that. Like they show up online like they are the baddest bitch in the room." And you were like, "Holy crap." You go to a branch and the drapes are brocade, the walls are wood, the floor, the carpet is ripped. It's like maybe clean, right? Okay, they keep it clean, but it's not updated. And those are like two different experiences. So if you told me that was the same bank, I would be like, "What are you talking about?" No, they're progressive, they're innovative. Those are two different experiences. And now I'm not going to debate the branches are dead, long live branches. That's not for discussion right now. But what's for discussion is whether you're a store, whether you're a cleaning service, whether you're Lemonster Wash and Fold, right? Everything that you do rolls up to the customer experience. Every touch point, right? Now think about if you're the laundry service and you thank me every time, um and I love that, but imagine all the bags that I have, everything is mixed up. So sometimes you put like my clothes, and maybe it's one of my shirts, one of my kids' pants, one of their socks, like the girls, the boys, all this, like, and then we put a towel here. That would be a disjointed experience. You appreciate me, you're thankful for my business, You cleaned, you did the bare minimum, but now I have to go home, take everything apart and resort it? I guess so. I guess. But no, alas, they're amazing. And they make sure they put all my stuff in one bag, all the yoga pants together, all the tank tops together, all the socks together. They have a bag for the boys. They have all their clothes together. They have a bag for my daughter, all of her stuff, and she sorts it and separates it. Isn't that incredible? And so, like, that aligns with the experience that they're offering. Oh, shout out to everyone in the chat. We have someone here. Yes, hi. Throw you up on the screen. I am from Massachusetts. I'm about 45 minutes west of Boston in central Mass. Shout out everyone in the chat where you're coming in from. I'd love to hear it. And shout out to the replay crew if you're not listening live, but you are listening on your ride home or on the drive into work in the morning, whether you're trimming your beard or brushing your hair and putting on your makeup. Maybe you're listening to us at the gym at night on the treadmill when you can't sleep. We appreciate you joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps keep the studio running. And I do go back and read all the comments. So if you don't post while we're live, I do go back and read them. So thank you. Going back to like the experience role, right? Everyone that I'm seeing that's posted doesn't involve all these channels. They're primarily retail. So what happens there? That tells me retail's focused on customer experience. Well, no way. We always have been. We always have been because they were the ones shoveling when facilities is like out straight and they haven't had a chance to clean up the front, right? We're salting. We're wiping the windows. We're making extra phone calls. Like we're pointing out to marketing when they have plenty of typos on there. So like, okay, erase. Retail is member experience. And it's so cool to see that they're taking on a larger role within organizations. And I think one thing that we need to be mindful of when we're at a leadership table, saying we need a chief experience officer because, like the sales manager, that's going to save the world. It's not. It's got to be a concerted effort. It's got to be ingrained in the culture. So how do you do that, right? How do you create a role that you decide what they own, what do they maybe not own but have other responsibilities for, right? Because like it's very careful if you're starting to switch lanes, if you're the chief experience officer and the only team that you own, right, is retail, and now you see something happening in the back office, we're just going to pick on them because like it's easy. I'm sorry. Okay. It's easy. But it's always like I had a recent example where back office saw a transaction come in and they blocked it for a customer. Okay. Now this person's been there 20 years. They have decent balances. It was a credit. It wasn't a debit. Perhaps you could have had someone call them and reach out to them and verify it instead of just blocking it. Like this is someone who is a diehard customer and probably a good champion of member experience. And it's hard to cross that line, right? So if you're a retail person and you're like, you know what, I want to talk about this one incident and how we can make it better for our members. Oh, you're the retail person. Okay, but my title says Chief Experience Officer. So I'm confused. Do I manage the experience for our customers or members, or do I just manage retail? I think that's the question, right? I'd be interested if there's anyone in the chat that has that role at their organization. What does it look like? What reports to them? Are you in that role, right? What struggles do you have? Because I see that as the biggest one, that if you have this kind of role, right? I want to say it should probably have a larger scope. I feel like marketing, digital, branch, contact center, those are the key ones that should roll up to it, um, because it can't just be a standalone role. And now again, when I say roll up to it, it depends on the size of the organization, right? If you're a really large organization, the chief marketing officer is probably not going to roll up to the chief experience officer, right? You're going to be peers. But if this is really looking to be like an executive level role that has a concerted focus on experience, and you're a smaller organization, yeah, I think it should have that kind of pull. What are the goals and metrics? So not only what are that particular role's goals and metrics, because you can't just base them on retail deposits. There has to be experience metrics. So are they based on like Google Yelp reviews, Facebook reviews, net promoter score, sentiment tracking, social listening, like how customer or member surveys, like how are you gathering this information? And then also, how are you ingraining that into the culture and making that a metric across the dashboard for everyone? Because as we know, what gets tracked and reported and focused on gets eyeballs. Okay. If customer experience is important to me as the chief experience officer, but you over in lending aren't gold on that, and your bonus doesn't depend on that, and your review doesn't depend on that, nor does your team's, how much of a priority is that? Probably not. And like that's what I've seen with the sales manager position, right? Where this kind of culture and goals and training is important for retail, and they have goals on it, but it's not an organizational focus. Um so when we talk about this, is this the right move for organizations, or is it just a trend? Is this like when everyone wanted a chief innovation officer, a chief deposit officer, a chief strategy officer? When it was just like the thought of the moment, right? Yeah, think about that. I'm going to switch over for a second. I have some notes on this because it really needs to be like a strategic growth role. It can't just be renaming the head of retail role. And now maybe, and I'd love to know this, could this be a shift of a larger seat at the table for retail leaders? I think that's incredible. I have to say it takes a special talent of retail leader, because, and I might be biased because I'm a retail girly through and through. But I feel like in retail, right, whether you're a frontline person or you're the head of retail, you need to know a little bit about everything, and you need to be prepared. If someone walks in and they have either a question on their checking account, how a fee was charged, they want a mortgage application, like it could literally be anything. And you're like, getting it all done, right? Um, when you're just alone, I'm going to say just a loan officer, right? Sure, there's tons of variations, right? You can come across like income problems, credit problems, like whatever, but you're taking a mortgage app every time. You're counseling on a mortgage question. Retail, you're going from car loans to certificates to, oh, there's a trust issue with they want a family trust, and is it a living trust or irrevocable trust? Like it's a and I think I think that a lot of people will agree, retail needs a larger seat at that table. And the trend is happening, and I'm so excited about it. It's coming from just a channel line leader to being an enterprise leader. But I caution you all, if you're an organization that's doing this, you need to do it right, and you need to be strategic and methodical about it. And it can't just be customer experience theater. like innovation theater. It can't just be for show. It can't just be because everyone's doing it. Everything needs to get pulled into that seat. Marketing, digital, retail, business development, maybe a little bit of lending. And other team members, whether you're operational, what like you need to be held accountable for that because everything affects the customer experience. Otherwise, it's just going to be the fad of the week, the idea of the moment. I've seen a lot of times that, and I've been really fortunate to work with some incredible marketing people. I'm thinking of one in particularly who I worked with recently, and head of marketing, but ends up being the de facto experience person because no one else cares. And maybe it's not because no one cares, but because people have just been beating the drum for so long that no one's listening. And then you get a fresh person in there that's like, whoa, what? Like, can you not send that letter just on white paper? Could you use letterhead? You know what I mean? And because those things matter and they end up being a defender of the brand, but it really is a defender of the member experience because every one of those touch points matters. And I'm not sure everyone sees it that way, but you're going to hire a chief experience officer because where else do we put it? Well, this one down the street, I read it in a white paper. Crazy. Okay, so I wrote some notes because I have a friend. This one's fun. So they interviewed for, it was an SVP of member experience. And I'm not going to say the friend, I'm not going to say the name of the organization, but it was about $1 million credit union. And they like called me to tell me about it because they like know that I totally geek out about this stuff. And we're bouncing some ideas. We're talking about something else. And they're like, okay, yeah. So I had this interview. It went really good. And I'm like, oh, tell me about the role, right? What does it do? Because again, I'm thinking like, wow, this is the first ever head of member experience. They're going to transform. Like they had just done a core conversion. Like all these things are going on. And they're like, oh yeah, they're responsible for the branch network, the contact center, and spinning up a business development team. I'm like, okay. Okay, so they own the branch network, which was small. It was about 4 branches, maybe. Contact center. Inbound and outbound. Okay, so there's some more touch points there. And business development. You don't mention digital. Where does digital roll up to? Oh, yeah, well, marketing says they own digital. What do you mean by marketing owns digital? Because that's a question, right? Well, marketing has the E branch. And they're responsible for the design and the colors in the app. I'm like, okay, so who owns the back office experience, like the back end experience, right? Oh, the operations team. Okay, I know how that story ends. It's seen that video before. So marketing owns the E branch, which is like another branch, except online. And that's not member experience? No, no, no. Marketing doesn't roll up to this role? No, no. There would be a peer. Okay. That must have been confusing. Yeah, actually it was because I went in there and I was talking about all these things and how, the branch team uses digital to promote and blah, blah, and the contact center and the ideas that I had for inbound and outbound and how we could incorporate digital. And it was like, whoa, 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 buddy, stay in your lane. I got this down. I own digital. And then you talk to the head of lending, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know if member experience roles, like lending rolls up to that, but there's certainly a connection there, right? So they had interviewed with the head of lending, they had done a peer panel, whatever. And like, how'd that go? Well, the lending guy sure had a lot of thoughts about what this role looked like, how we needed to do more cross-sell, how we had to upsell our single service loan customers. Oh, I bet they did. They always do. But are they willing to help? No, not usually. Oh, okay. Because they're just a lending production machine, right? Okay, yeah. We talked about that one before. So now you've already met 2 senior leaders that don't buy into this. And now you're going to be hired as the senior vice president of member experience. And when you throw your input in, to another area because it fits under the umbrella of member experience. What are you going to be told? Well, you already know marketing doesn't want to hear you because they own digital. Lending already told you how you can do your job better and all the things that they need from your area. What do they need you for? You're just an idiot because lending could be running member experience too, I guess. And I asked like where operations fits in, and they're like, well, it's interesting. The member experience role actually reports to the COO, and the COO owns the member experience division, which is just retail. Okay. It owns IT and it owns operations, which is like deposit operations, not loan operations, because that's under lending. I go, okay. So basically what's going to happen, I'm just like I could picture this, okay? You're going to have the head of member experience and the head of operations sitting in a room complaining about each other to their boss who's the COO. And they're going to have to be playing intermediary. Because it's like I think that's good that they both roll up to the same team that creates some sort of alignment, but where does marketing roll up? Well, marketing rolls up to the CEO. Okay. So where does lending roll up? Oh, lending rolls up to the CEO too. Okay. So now you're going to have you're creating battles and fistfights that don't need to be there. Because now you're going to have some working up through the COO, some working up through the CEO, and some fights being managed within that realm. And then some fights have to go up to the executive level. Like, we don't have time and energy for all these fights. And I'm sorry, if your organization doesn't have fights, where do you work? Because, like, I would like to join you. Because it seems like, and maybe I get this from TikTok too, that like all these interdepartmental corporate culture nonsense, like it definitely needs to go away. But sometimes it's just organizations setting themselves up for failure, right? When you decide that you want to hire a chief experience officer just for the sake of doing it, you're creating hurdles and setting them up for failure. They're never going to succeed if you're not doing it for the right reasons. I really think this would be a good like way to merge some key areas, right? Strategy, data, growth. Those are the things that when you think about it and you peel everything back, those are the three areas that we're really focused on. And what do you call that? Do you put it under the veil of member experience? Maybe. Do you try to hire a chief strategy officer? Maybe. Is it the role of the COO? I think it depends on what you're looking for. Because that can be a confusing one too. If you're the COO, chief operating officer, and you don't own any operations, what does that tell the rest of the organization? Because that's weird, right? It's like setting up for failure. And when you talk about forming a member experience, it has to have some teeth there. There needs to be some purpose, some strategy, some focus. What do you guys think? What else would you add to that? Looking at the chat. Yeah, right, exactly. Like so what I did was too, I didn't tell you guys this. I took some job descriptions for chief experience officers or head of member experience, and I threw them into AI. And it said do compute. And it talked about some trends. So the first trend, and is what I just said, experience is being tied directly to growth. So what the goals and objectives are for in those job descriptions focus on growth, increasing deposit balances, enhance lending opportunities, conversion rates, acquisition, engagement, market expansion, product adoption. This is not your fluffy customer experience, feel good, warm hugs. Like there is revenue engine here. And I think that's so important. And that is more than just managing a branch channel. Um, Things that like get bundled under this rule, this is what we are just talking about. It's all over the place. Either it's just retail or you're starting to see the main ones you're seeing under there besides retail are marketing and digital. And I think that absolutely makes the most sense because those have the most touch points. Sometimes they're throwing in like business development, community partnerships, but very rarely is it lending. And this kind of topic used to be spread across, you maybe had different roles, like a chief retail officer, chief marketing officer, a head of digital. It's starting to blend into one. So maybe one C-suite roles that manages a bunch of senior leaders that have the different channel alignments. I even saw some job descriptions for, and I should have written these down, but they were for like branch bankers. And it was like member experience provider, member experience rep, or something like that. And it was they did it a lot better, but I was like, that's really interesting. What does that tell you? It comes with a hospitality route. Okay, non sequitur, sideway, no, related, unrelated. I'm going to tell you about a book. It's on my phone, and I just want to make sure I say the last name right because I'm going to try to say what I think it is, and then I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Okay, so the book is called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Such a good book. If you listen to the audiobook, he reads it himself and it like brings it to life. But it talks about essentially transforming ordinary transactions into like extraordinary experiences by going above and beyond, giving people more than they expect. So he owned one of many restaurants, but one of them was 11 Madison Park in New York. And he talked about the way they transformed the restaurant and integrated so many simple things into exceeding and going beyond expectations. And this is a book that if I'm like going for a long drive, I will listen to it over. I've listened to it probably 10 times because it's something that I can put on and not completely focus on, but I pick up different tips every time. I'm going to put it in the chat. He did start a TikTok, but he doesn't keep up with it, which is too bad because he's got like such good, like he's got a great voice and he also has such good tips. I've like, oh, that's interesting how it comes up. Yeah. I've gotten so many good tips and I love listening to it because it talks about like creating a people first culture and focusing on connection, collaboration, and how it goes beyond just serving your customers. When you serve your team, you're serving those that then serve your customers. And it's just an incredible book with so many great lessons, and it can be applied to any industry. So I think about that, right, when I have my member experience hat on, that this incorporates so many different channels and so many different like opportunities, and it's starting to go the way of like really focusing on every touch point in the customer journey. So instead of marketing just mapping out the journey, right, and the life cycle of like, okay, they get a letter, they get a 2-day mailing, they get a phone call, like that is so old school. And I like get so angry when you're in a room of like, I'm gonna say you guys are going to hate me, but like old white male executives that think that that's the solution. Oh, well, how are we doing our 2-day phone call, our 3-week letter, or this like that? That is so 1990, and I'll give you a little credit, maybe 2005. All right, but we're done with that. People go in and out of journeys so quickly. Like that is old. And so when you talk about like customer mapping, segmentation, like that goes beyond just the marketing department, and I really feel like falls under customer experience. Another one of the trend is, like I said, see, I'm really good. I called all these before I read this. Experience and strategy are merging. And that's a big deal. So this role could own strategic planning, project management, execution. Like experience is now actually how strategy gets executed. And it's one of the things that I like talk about when I talk about strategic planning. And every couple of years, banks or credit unions go through strategic planning and they get this magical strategic planning document and they spend all this time on it. Okay. And you know what they do with it? They put it in the drawer and they take it out in 3 more years when it's time to do the strategic plan again. We don't look at it. We don't track to it. We don't hold ourselves accountable. We dust it off. Say, okay, what are we going to do different this time? That needs to change. Strategy can't just live in a deck saved to a shared drive. Like this needs to be something that you live and breathe every day. And I know when I manage retail and I managed larger teams, I brought everything back to the strategic plan. How does this roll up to what we're trying to do? And everything that I did, I can tell you with 100% certainty, it matched something on the strategic plan. And I could explain that until I was blue in the face. And sometimes I had to. But like you have to take this stuff seriously. And if you're a chief strategy officer, chief experience officer, that's the kind of caliber of person that you need. And you need to be able to have the power or authority within the organization to hold others accountable and bring people along and together for that shared purpose. We're definitely seeing data being a trend that supports this role. They talk about leveraging analytics, segmentation, conversion rates, digital adoption, member insights, NPS, and engagement metrics. So we're finding that this role is starting to be the translator between data and action. Okay. So we're not just reporting. Okay. Because, for such a long time, departments report okay, we got our numbers. What does that mean? What are we changing? How do we shift this course? Not a lot of people talk about that. And I'm going to pick on back office again. Whenever you do happen to get digital analytics from them, because for some reason they think they own digital sometimes, they're just numbers and they don't make sense. And I had one, and I remember getting a report and I would look at it, analyze it. Like I love numbers and I love coming up with action plans out of the numbers. And one time you see what's the example? P2P payments, right? So in the line item, how many P2P payments were claimed each month from your whole customer base? So it was and these are low numbers because this is legitimately the low numbers that were there. Okay, January 250, February 233, March 275, April 311, May 2,500, June 253, July 257, and you're like, okay, question, where did the 2,500 come from? Is that a typo? Something's not mathing here. And the answer is, oh yeah, you know what? I noticed that too. It's right. It was on the report. Okay. So let me just make sure I understand here. So you're telling me that you saw a report where it was averaging along 250, 300 P2P transactions per month. It spiked to 2,500, which was legit according to the report, and then went back down And you just thought, just going to put that on the report and send it through. Yeah, yeah, I thought something was weird. Okay, maybe could you research it? Could you check with the vendor? I have questions. Yeah, like, did something happen that month? Like, are we being misbilled? Like, there's no sort of like thought process there. And so when you talk about a role of member experience, you're not just reporting, right? You're driving decisions, analyzing, making outcomes, and because if you can't measure it and you can't fix it, you can't grow it. Okay? So you need to understand your data, have the data, understand the data, and then be able to action upon it. And you need brains in the middle. Because again, if you can't do this, I can get AI to do that. And I will. So, thank you. Getting sassy. I think I have like yeah, 2 more themes that I want to bring up that when it talks about member experience, so that we're seeing in the job description. So brand and community are blurring. So especially on the credit union side, they're seeing a trend with member experience encompassing community partnerships, social impact, brand ambassadors, external relationship management, center of influences, advocacy. They're encompassing it all within this role. And also figuring out how to manage that externally, right? So, making sure that you're not just shaping the experience within your walls or within the confines of your system and your phone center or your email or your digital channels. It's not just within that container. Your experience extends out on social media, out in the community, what people are talking about at chamber events when you're not in the room, when you are in the room, like what people are saying in your peer networks. Perception and perception outside and experience inside are being pulled together, especially on the credit union side. And I think this is so, so, so important. I'm a big advocate of social listening and actually acting upon it. So we'll probably do a whole other episode on this. I'm gonna write that down. Anytime I worked at an organization, I was always a member of the local Facebook groups. So whether you are what's happening in Worcester, talking trash about Taunton, like whatever it is, okay? You make sure that you're there. Northborough moms, like, because chances are people are going to be talking about either you or your competitors. And there's lots of good insights to be gleaned from that. So anytime someone would mention my organization, if it was in a negative light, I would jump in and say, "Hey, I'm a representative. I'd love to help you, blah, blah." And I'd be able to turn it around, which was amazing. If it was, "Hey, I'm looking for a new bank," and people would recommend, "Oh my God, I had a really great experience with this company. I'd love," and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh," like I would get their names. I would put it into the CRM. I'd send them all thank you cards, sometimes gifts, because like, love your bank, right? Like, I would always send like a $5 or $10 gift certificate either to like a local coffee shop or like Amazon because it was easy for everyone to use. And I would write a nice little note and like saying for thank you for sharing the bank love or whatever. And I had so many people then repost on social being like, "Oh my God, my bank was listening and they like care about me." And that helps foster the experience and the perception of your brand outside of your 4 walls. And I just think that is like such a piece that's missed, and it's so cool and so important, and something that you should consider, just not necessarily yourself, but in the realm of member experience. One of the things that's not showing up enough is culture. Culture ownership is unclear. And again, this could be a whole other show in itself, but that's a massive problem. Who owns culture? You can't fix the member experience without fixing the employee experience. Full stop. When it comes to Training and coaching, creating a culture of service excellence, employee engagement, inspiring and motivating. How do you do all those things if no one owns it? And again, it's not shared across business lines. I'd be interested, um, those that are joining, like who owns culture at your organization? And post this in, I might post this on Facebook. I've seen a lot of employee resource groups lately, or like culture committees, and I think that's so cool. And I think it totally is moving it in the right direction. Um, but it's hard unless you have someone that specifically can influence culture. So I'm seeing a shift in these roles here. When you talk about experience, they don't own culture. They influence culture, and I think that's important. But they have to have the space and the runway and the empowerment to do so. Because it again, when you're focused on the employee experience, it impacts the customer or member experience. I could talk about this forever. You guys figured that out, huh? Should I get sassy for a little bit? I was on a call before this, and the person that was on the call with was like, "Oh my god, you look so cute. I love your shirt." I was like, "Thanks. I put on a Zoom top today." So you guys, I put on a Zoom top for you. I was gonna wear one of my fun sweatshirts, but like, why not a Zoom top today? It makes me feel a little more springy, even though the weather here in like Massachusetts is cold again. It's in the 20s and 30s this morning. Um, so oh, you can't see I'm like doing my eye roll. It feels good to like share this with all of you because this is something that's like blowing my mind, and I think I want to write an article about it and maybe make it like another topic of conversation because there's no solution yet, and I don't see anyone doing it really, really well. And it's such a critical time that we can't stop focusing on this, and we can't keep starting over and trying something new. Like it's either innovate or die, adapt or become extinct right now. I got that from one of my college professors. Um, but it's so true. Like if you're gonna keep like, oh nope, we're gonna get a sales manager, we're gonna get a head of innovation, we're gonna get a member experience. Like I was talking to a company that spun up an innovation division, and they had a senior vice president of innovation, an innovation lab, and a vice president of innovation. I'm like, okay, what do you guys do? They're like, we're like deposit ops. And I'm like, okay, that's not innovative. And they're like, yeah, no, we know, but it was like the CEO's idea at the time. Stop sending your CEOs to conferences or letting them read white papers if they're going to come back with stupid ideas like that. Yeah. Just because it's trendy doesn't mean we need to do it. I think this is going to be a continuing topic because I don't think right now there's a right answer. I'm excited to see that retail's taking a bigger spot on the stage. I don't necessarily think the head of retail role is dead. I think it's evolving. And I think as organizations grow or merge or combine or whatever, um, there's room for like a senior vice president at the leadership team, but having a chief experience officer above it that like is the C-suite person, because I don't necessarily think that always rolls up to like a CEO or a CFO or a COO. I think experience is its own seat, and I think it's important, but it has to be done right. So we're going to keep talking about this. And if you're not in banking or you're not in financial services and you're watching and you're like a marketing branding nerd or you own your own business, think about as we leave here all the touch points that your clients or consumers experience and who manages it. Probably you if you're a small business owner or entrepreneur. But there might be things that are going unnoticed. And how can you do one new thing in the next week going forward, the next month, that focuses or shapes or makes a positive impact on your consumer's experience. That's our challenge to you. Okay? So we're going to end this with an affirmation. And it would be so amazing if it came up with something to do with experience, but we're just going to do random. I got these affirmation cards from a colleague many years ago. And so good, so good. So let's see. Okay. All right. Again, random. We're just going to pick up cheerfulness. I love this. I embrace a state of cheerfulness, even on days when I don't wake up feeling that way. Knowing that moods are contagious, especially in enclosed spaces. I'd rather not cause an outbreak of crankiness or complaints. Instead, I'll strive to be patient zero of joy and laughter. They might even make a Lifetime movie about me. Oh my gosh, I love this. I think I might add this to my LinkedIn. Patient zero of joy and laughter. All right, Smarties, thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Carrie Show here at BankSmart Studio. And don't forget to like and subscribe to help keep the studio running. And stay social. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and a little bit of TikTok. And thank you so much.
Wait, where did she go? Why is this still on? Bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye!